Software engineers build software, but if you don't know what that actually involves, then stick around because in this video, I'll walk you through what software engineers actually do when they say that they code, how they go about building all the amazing applications that you see around you from Canva to Netflix, and I'll also highlight the top skills that you need to thrive in this industry. Hey folks, I'm Adi and I spent over 10,000 hours coding over the last 5 years. And in this video, I want to go beyond the regular day in the life video of someone working in big tech and really help you understand what software engineers actually do. So grab a coffee, take a seat, and let's jump right into it. So what do software engineers actually do? We've all seen those day in the life videos of other software engineers working at big tech companies. And from those videos, it's pretty clear that software engineers spend most of their time coding, attending meetings, or eating all day. But I still don't think that does much justice in explaining what the job of a software engineer actually involves. I mean, what are they building with all the code that they write, and what are all of those meetings for? To understand that, let's take a look at how most product companies out there operate by looking specifically at the Instagram application. So if you take a look at the initial version of the app, it looked quite different to what we're used to seeing today. It was a bare bones social media application that only allowed you to post photos with a simple description, and your followers were only allowed to engage with those photos through likes and comments. But over the years, they released updates that eventually transformed the application to what we're used to seeing today. And that's because visionaries at the company sat down and they decided that Instagram should support other features like Reels, DMs, and Stories. And they did that to stay ahead of the competition and keep you hooked. They would then go and request relevant teams to build out these features for them. And that's exactly where the role of a software engineer comes in. So a software engineer is responsible for taking a vision of a product along with designs of what that vision is supposed to look like, and then to actually go out there and build that product and maintain it for the company. So in the case of Instagram, it was the software engineers that were responsible for building out Reels, DMs, Stories, and basically all the other features that you see and use on the platform today. Okay, so software engineers are responsible for converting a vision into reality. But what does that process actually look like? To understand that, I want you to imagine the following scenario. So you're a software engineer and you have this amazing idea for an application. You estimate that it'll take you maybe around 12 months of work to fully develop this app and release it to customers. So you come up with a detailed plan and then spend the next 12 months tirelessly building out your application. You even go so far as to investing thousands of dollars and hours into it. Now finally, the day arrives when you release your app to customers, and it wasn't what people wanted. The audience found it too complex to use, the designs you came up with weren't intuitive at all, and your app basically missed the mark on what the market actually needed. And just like that, 12 months of hard work have gone down the drain. So the scenario that I just outlined isn't all that uncommon and is actually why a lot of startups out there collapse. And tech giants like Google, Netflix, Amazon, and even Canva understand this, which is why a lot of them go about building their products and features using what is known as an agile development methodology. So if a project is estimated to take around 12 months to complete from start to finish, then the agile methodology breaks this project down into smaller, manageable chunks called sprints. Now these sprints are usually 2 to 4 weeks long, during which you focus on building and releasing only a small part of a larger feature. So for instance, when Instagram first introduced Stories, they didn't release all the sub features that we see and use with Stories today. They started off with the basic function of just uploading a photo or a short video, and that would just disappear after 24 hours. And once they saw that users actually responded positively and were using the feature, they decided to add more smaller sub features in later sprints, such as stickers, text overlays, and filters. And by releasing improvements every 2 to 4 weeks, they basically gave themselves time to listen to user feedback and pivot the direction of the feature if the market wasn't reacting to it the way that they expected. And this approach basically ends up saving companies hundreds of thousands of dollars in the long run. So the next time you want to build and release an application of your own, maybe you should consider breaking it down into smaller, more manageable chunks of work and using the agile development methodology to actually make sure that you're correctly addressing market needs. Okay, so we talked about how the primary role of a software engineer is to convert a vision into a product. And we also talked about how they use something known as the agile development methodology to test out market needs and build out these products. So the next thing you might be asking yourself is, what skills are actually needed to do these two things? Now, leaning on my experience over the last 5 years, I've boiled this down into 4 core skills. The first one is an obvious one, and it's basically coding skills but related to your specialization. So if you're a backend engineer, you'd need to know a few backend programming languages and frameworks. So that would be stuff like Java, Python, Spring, or even Flask. You might also need to know how to set up microservices and deploy them to some cloud computing infrastructure like AWS. But this skill is an obvious one and is something that you naturally develop while working in this industry. Now, the second skill is something that most beginners in tech don't even realize is a skill, and it's your ability to take those feature requests and visions for a product, process all of that ambiguity, and come up with a solution using problem solving or critical thinking. Now, contrary to popular belief, problem solving isn't a skill that you're born with, and it isn't something that you just naturally pick up when you learn how to code, but instead it's something that you need to work on every single day. And I've made an entire video on this topic, which I'll link in the description if you're interested in learning more about it. Now, the next skill stems from the fact that software engineers rarely work in isolation. We collaborate with other people, from UX designers to product managers. And because of this, it's really important for us to be able to convey our ideas, listen to others, and basically work together towards a common goal. Which is why the third skill that I'm talking about is clear and effective oral and written communication. Remember, you may be the best software engineer in the entire world, but if you can't communicate that to your team or the company that you work at, then your skills and abilities are basically going to go unnoticed, which is going to hinder your professional growth. Now, the final skill stems from working in an agile environment. Now, I want you to imagine that you're one of those engineers working on Instagram stories. You launch the initial version of the feature, and then the company sees that it doesn't actually receive the engagement that they hoped for. Now, because of this, management decides to completely scrap the stories feature and instead invest heavily in a DMs feature, which they task you with building out. Now, the DMs feature requires you to build out a chat-based application which you have absolutely no experience in. So you need to go out there and pick up this knowledge and find a way to apply it to the project as quickly as possible. Now, the scenario that I just described takes place quite often in tech, and if you haven't guessed it by now, the skill that it requires you to have is your ability to adapt and learn new things quickly. Now, things in this industry change so rapidly, with new technologies and frameworks emerging every single day. And sometimes staying on top of all of this new information feels like you're going down an endless rabbit hole. But I do have a hack to help you deal with this. Now, with the help of AI, you can significantly speed up this learning process by a factor of 10. But that's only provided you know how to use it correctly, which is why I've made an entire video on this topic, which you might be interested in watching next.